I'm president of the National Taxpayers United of Illinois, and we're here in Peoria today to conclude our Illinois tax tour, unless, of course, the General Assembly goes into special session next week, but we expect that to be all over, this to be all over by Sunday, May 31. Our group has helped defeat the income tax increase 15 years in a row. This is the 16th year in a row we're fighting the what has turned out to be the annual income tax increase push in Springfield. Each time they say they need an income tax increase, they claim the end of the world will occur if they don't get an income tax hike. And each time we beat it down, we prove that they're liars in Springfield. State revenue has increased every year since we've been tracking it, well, until this year. Revenue was up $7 billion. State revenue was up more than the rate of inflation 6 years in a row. This year, we have found that state revenue is actually down by 2%. Total state revenue is down 2%. $1 billion over the first 10 months of this year as compared to the first 10 months of last year. But that's just a modest dip in state revenue. That's not a major crisis. And we created this 6 years ago, and this is true today as it was 6 years ago. Let's talk about a budget crisis is a big lie. Revenue is up 6 years in a row over the rate of inflation. This year it's down by a modest 2%, $1 billion over the first 10 months of this year. So all this talk about a budget crisis, a revenue crisis, is a big lie. They've been lying to us for 7 years now about a budget crisis. And each year we beat down the income tax increase, and each year they continue to spend more money. This year they may have to actually cut back spending by 2%, but that's not a crisis. We need to beat down the income tax increase again, as well as the cigarette tax increase for that matter, because that's the second largest tax increase in Springfield. And that was approved by the state Senate a month ago. It's over in the House right now. Pat Quinn, Governor Quinn, wants to raise your state income tax by 50% to help fund Illinois' outrageous government pensions. Quinn, a sneaky politician who is as slippery as a quart of 10W30, doesn't tell you the state will receive an $11.5 billion in federal stimulus funds over the next 18 months. The press has ignored this too. We were just talking about that earlier. The state of Illinois is going to receive over $11 billion in state and federal subsidies from Obama and his friends in Washington over the next 18 months. And Quinn wants to raise our income tax another $4 billion on top of that. That would give him an extra 8 plus 11, $19 billion in additional revenue if he raises the income tax. He does not need to raise the income tax. Even if you took the argument he needs the money and he doesn't, the state will receive over $11 billion in federal stimulus funds over the next 18 months. So that would allow Quinn to cut the income tax, or to cut our taxes if he were truly a friend of the taxpayer. But he isn't. He's an enemy of Illinois taxpayers. Lavish gold-plated pensions for retired local and state employees have created most of the current $9 billion revenue gap projected through June 30, 2011. By retiring after 34 years of employment at age 55 with a salary of $100,000 a year, a government high school teacher will receive a total retirement income of $3,100,000. That's the problem. These outrageous government pensions that make these government retirees, state government retirees, teachers and administrators retiring from the public schools outside Chicago. This retirement system is causing us to have enormous amounts of unfunded liabilities. The solution to the unfunded liabilities is to make the state employees and the teachers pay more out of their own paychecks for their own $1 million pension benefits. Just make them pay more for their health care benefits. They pay nothing now for their incredibly generous health care benefits. Make them pay more. And also, what the Springfield needs to do is require all new government hires to get into Social Security and get 401ks like those of us in the private sector. If that becomes law someday, then there will be no new unfunded liabilities for the state of Illinois. Now, I'm not talking about this two-tier system that Quinn supports. That's just more of the same old BS. That's almost as bad as the existing system we had. What I'm talking about is requiring all new government hires to get into 401ks and Social Security. That will eliminate additional unfunded liabilities. Right now, the state has $110 billion in unfunded liabilities. They were saying over and over again they needed to raise the income tax to take care of these unfunded liabilities. But what they don't say is that the $110 billion in unfunded liabilities is for their own pensions and their own retirement health care benefits projected over the next 40 years. Now that since we've been running around the state letting folks know about the unfunded pension liabilities, they've changed their tune. Then they said after that they needed to raise the income tax 50% for the children. And when that didn't work, because everybody knows teachers and administrators in the public schools get enormous salaries, and that's where 80% of the public school funding goes. When that didn't work, Mr. Quinn started talking about we need to raise the income tax to help the vets. And by the vets, he doesn't mean the federal vets. He's talking about the Illinois National Guard vets. So what he's doing is using National Guard vets, our soldiers overseas, for political cover in order to justify raising the state income tax 50%.